If you love the look of knitting but you haven't learned how to yet, I have some great news. You can replicate the look of those stitches with crochet. There are a variety of stitches to choose from, but today I'm going to be focusing on the three most recognizable styles. That's the Stockinette Stitch, the Ribbing Stitch, and the Garter Stitch. The key to any of these is the direction that the stitches are laying. Both knit and crochet stitches create a V-shaped stitch, but they lay differently. For knitting, the V stitches sit on top of each other vertically, where with crochet, they sit horizontally. So the key to creating a knit-like stitch is the direction that you want that stitch to be facing. And I'll go into more detail about that decision with each technique. Let's go ahead and start with the Stockinette Stitch. I have a couple of techniques that I want to show you. The first one, in my opinion, is the easiest and most successful one, which is called the Tunisian knit stitch. Now, don't let the word Tunisian intimidate you. It's a different kind of crochet style that is super simple and super fun. Basically, instead of working with one loop on your hook, you have all the loops on your hook at one time. So if you've ever seen a Tunisian hook, you'll see it's very long. So if you want to work on something like a blanket, for example, I would recommend that you get a Tunisian hook that has a cable attached, because you're going to have all of the loops of that blanket on your hook at the same time. For this project, these stitches are going to naturally go vertically, so you want to start with the width measurement of your project. For example, if you're making a blanket, you'll create a chain to the width of the blanket that you want to make, and it can be any number. Starting in the second chain from the hook, go through the chain and pull a loop and stop. You're just going to continue this all the way across, going into the chain and pulling up a loop. Next, yarn over and pull through one loop. That's creating the side. And now you're just going to yarn over and pull through two all the way back down. Yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two, all the way down. And now the magic begins. Instead of working into the bar here like you normally would for Tunisian crochet, you're going to go behind it and in the middle. So here's your bar, go right behind it, go through and pull your yarn through that hole to create your loop. You're just going to do this all the way across. There's your bar, go behind it and through and pull a loop. Behind and through, pull a loop. When you come to the end, make sure you have both sides. And now you're just doing the exact same thing. Yarn over and pull through one to create your side. And now just going all the way back, yarn over, pull through two. Yarn over, pull through two. Pull through two, all the way back to the beginning. Now we're just going to repeat this all the way across again, going behind the bar, going into the middle, to complete the row, just go through like you normally would, and create a slip stitch. Make it nice and loose. Another option for a stockinette stitch is called the waistcoat stitch, or another name for that would be the center single crochet. And again, this is going to be made vertically. Your stitch will be vertical when you make it. So start with the width that you want your project to be. So if you're working on a blanket, start with the width measurement. This stitch can be worked in the round or flat. Either way works. It just looks a little bit differently while you're working on it, so I'll go ahead and show you both ways. One quick tip though, this is a very dense stitch and can be kind of hard to work into those stitches. So whatever the suggested hook size for your yarn is, I would recommend that you go up one hook size larger. For example, I usually work 4mm with this yarn. For this, I'm going to go up to a 5mm. I'm going to start in the round. Just create a chain. No multiple necessary, just whatever width you're making your project. Now I'm just going to join it together as if we're working in the round. And then to begin, create a single crochet into each chain around. You want to be mindful of this and work a little bit more loosely than you normally would. And you'll see why here in just a moment. Okay, slip stitch to complete the round. Chain one to give yourself some wiggle room. So instead of working your single crochet working right below the V on the top, you're going to be working your single crochet into the V below. Here's the top of your single crochet. Here's the bottom portion of your single crochet. Can you see that V effect? You're going to go right in between there to create your single crochet. Again, you want to work your stitches nice and loosely. The very first round is the tightest. After that, you should be good to go. When you come to the end of the round, slip stitch and chain one. And as you can see, here are your V stitches. They're a little bit more clear to see, to work into. So just keep repeating this round after round, working into the V. If you want to work this flat, very easy. It's just going to look a little bit different where you're putting your hook. So create a chain to the width that you want to make. Single crochet all the way across, starting from that second chain from the hook. Again, make sure that you're working with a larger hook for this. Chain one and turn. Because we're on the back side, that V stitch is now upside down. You're going to be working into the space right below that horizontal bar. So look for the upside down V right under the horizontal bar and create a single crochet. Look how tight that one is. You can see why it's so important to work loosely, even with that larger hook. When you come to the end, that's so tight, I just like to just do a regular single crochet there. And then chain one and turn. And you're just going to repeat the same process. You're going to go right below that horizontal bar, look for the upside down V, and go in. Another popular stitch in knitting is the rib stitch, or a ribbing effect. And we use this a lot in crochet as well, or try to get that effect. It looks really good on the cuffs of our sweaters, on beanies, scarves, or making a rib style blanket. It's such a versatile stitch and so easy to do. You can create the ribbing effect with any stitch that you like. You can do it with slip stitches, singles, doubles, trebles. I'm going to do it with single crochets today. The key here though is that you want to focus on the length of the project that you want to make. So for example, if you're making a blanket, you're going to focus on that length to make your chain instead of the width. That's because when we're finished with the rows, the stitches are going to be sitting horizontally. For it to look like knit, we want to turn it around so the stitches are vertical. Create a chain to whatever number you like. I'm doing a single crochet ribbing here, so starting in the second chain from the hook, create a single crochet like you normally would. When you come to the end, chain one and turn. And now all you're going to do to get that ribbing effect is work into the back loop only. There's the chain one that I just made. So my next stitch is right here, chain one and here, working into the back loop only, create my single crochet. And that's all there is to this. You're just going to do this row after row after row. To find the back stitch, just pull everything forward so you can see the V of the stitch. It's the back one. Chain one and turn. And you're just going to repeat this row after row. There's my chain, There's my first stitch, back loop only. You can also create a ribbing effect with back post double crochets and front post double crochets. I'm not going to be showing that one today. I will in a later video. I'm going to be doing a border like that soon. So I'll show an example of that in that video. But this is so easy and you can use it for so many projects. And that's all there is to it, but you can see this is the reason you want to focus on the length of your project, because when you're finished, you want the orientation of your stitches to be vertical. This is another stitch that creates a ribbing effect, but the difference with this one is that it retains that look of that V stitch, which is really beautiful. And we're going to be working this with half double crochets. It's called the Camel Stitch. Again, just create a chain to the height or the length that you want your project to be, because again, we're going to be wanting the ribbing stitch to sit vertically when we're finished. So starting in the second chain from the hook, create a half double crochet and then continue on making half double crochets in each chain across. Chain 2 and turn. Now for this stitch, what we're doing is we're taking those V stitches and pushing them away. So we're going to be creating our half double crochets into the third leg of the stitch, or in other words, the back of the stitch. Bring your stitches forward. There's the top. 1, 2, right below, 3. So here's our very first stitch. 1, 2, 3. Create your half double crochet into that third leg. You're just going to continue this all the way across. Oh, hello, somebody's awake. Chain 2 and turn. And now you're just going to repeat this, working into the third leg. 1, 2, 3. A variation to this that's really pretty is to do the third leg on the first row and then the back loop only on the second row. Create the same way, create a chain to the length of the project that you want to make. Create half double crochets all the way across in each chain. When you reach the end, chain 2 and turn. Again, just like before, starting in that third leg, create your half double crochets all the way down. Notice here my tail is on the right side. This is really helpful to remember when you're trying to remember what row you're on, if you're doing back loop only or third leg only. We're doing the third leg here with the tail on the right. This is if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, it will be on the left. Chain 2 and turn. And now, instead of working into the third leg, you're going to work into the back loop only. Chain 2 and turn. And now we're back to the third leg, so we're just going to do the third leg only. Chain 2, and now we're on the back loop only. What I like so much about this version is that there are more V-stitches on the front. The only difference here is that the back is plain. The original one, where you're doing the third leg on each row, you'll have a V-stitch on both sides. Here's my favorite variation. This time we're just using single crochets. create a chain to the length of the project that you want to make. I recently made a blanket with this stitch and absolutely love it. I'll go ahead and link to it here and at the end of the video. Starting in the second chain from the hook, create single crochets all the way down. Chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to be working into the back of the single crochet, but it's the horizontal bar right beneath the top of that stitch. So 1, 2, 3. So here we go. The first one's a little tricky to see. Sometimes it sits a little bit more vertically. But here it is right here. And we're just doing single crochets into that horizontal bar, or the third leg, however you want to reference it. The biggest tip that I can give for you with this is to work loosely. Otherwise it's going to be tricky getting into that horizontal bar there. I can see here I worked pretty tight with that, forgetting all about that. But we're just going to be doing this row after row after row until you complete your project. And again, you want to make sure that that chain is made to the length of the project that you're making. So if you're working on a beanie, you want it to be the height. Get in there. Oh man, I need to really listen to my own advice. Chain 1 and turn. And there's our very first one. See, it's a little bit on an angle. And again, this is just pushing those stitches forward so you get that beautiful V effect of that knit stitch. I really love the look of this stitch. I love the knit style V on the front as well as on the back. It looks the same on the front and the back. Finally, we're going to do the garter stitch, and the garter stitch has this purl effect on both sides of the work. We're going to be using slip stitches for this, and you know slip stitches are notorious for being tight, so I would recommend that you go up at least 1 to 2 hook sizes more than the recommended hook size for your yarn. So usually I use a 4mm with this yarn. Today I'm going to use a 5mm. Make a chain to the width of the project that you want to make. Next, we're going to do slip stitches into each chain across. One thing I would recommend, particularly with this stitch, is to work your first row into the back bump. This is a good practice anyway because it gives a really pretty edge to your work. But for this technique in particular, it really does make a difference to the final look of your piece. So skipping that first bump, working into the second bump, I'm going to do my slip stitches all the way down. Chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to be alternating working in the back loop only and then the front loop only. So for this row, back loop only, there's the chain we just made. Working into the back loop, create a slip stitch. If you're having trouble finding where the back loop is, here is the front. Pull everything forward towards you. There's the V-stitch, and there's the back loop. Chain 1 and turn. And now for this row, we're going to be working in the front loop only. And a good rule of thumb here is to pay attention to your tail. If you're right-handed, the tail will be on the left-hand side when you're working the front loop only, and then it will be on the right side when you're working back loop only. If you're left-handed, this will be in the reverse. So there's my chain, front loop only, there's my V-stitch, back loop, front loop. Going up a hook higher or even 2 higher is the way to go with this. The first time I made this, I was trying to do it with the 4mm that I usually use. Things got thrown. I invented some new swear words. So definitely go up a hook size and work very loosely without ruining your tension. A couple of cookies help too. And chain one and turn. And just going to continue this. We're back to the back loop only. The tail is on the right. And you're just going to repeat the sequence back and forth until you reach the end of your project. And what kind of project would this be good for? Things like pot holders, little placemats, maybe mug rugs, things like that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a lot of fun just to experiment and explore these stitches and see what could actually be done to look like knit style. Like I mentioned earlier, I used one for a recent blanket project that I did. I used a very bulky yarn for mine. I wanted it to work up quickly, but you could certainly use a regular worsted weight yarn, maybe a couple, 2 or 3 strands at the same time, make a perfect scrap blanket. So check that out and see what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.